to Moto Mouths, the podcast for MotoGP, motorsports, and more. My name is Zoe. I'm your host, and I'm going to be so real. I am so tired.
My name is also Zoe, and I feel like we've both had a series of days, you know?
Yeah. Anyways, let's see how this podcast episode goes. I think it'll be good.
I, straight up have had enough stupid conversations about difficult things in my day-to-day life over the last couple of days. I need to have difficult conversations about stupid things that have happened in MotoGP, you know? That's what I need.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think that's a really, really good point.
It's restorative, healing even.
It is restorative yoga.
And you know what? It might also be the glass of wine.
It might also be the glass of wine. I say we just get into it.
As tradition.
Not to talk about Jorge Martin for 2 minutes at the top of the pod every pod, but
it might be a little longer than 2 minutes this time. There's a lot going on with Jorge Martin, I think, to talk about this week. So let's just jump right in. Long story short, and it's going to be long story long, Jorge Martin drove down to Le Mans over the course of the weekend because, spoiler alert, he still cannot fly because of his collapsed lung and multiple broken ribs.
Not good.
Not good.
He's grounded.
Honestly, Aprilia would probably like to ground him. I can confirm that. So he drove down to Le Mans. He took meetings in Le Mans, I believe, on Friday. Essentially what has happened is that Jorge Martin is revealed through reporting that Jorge Martin's camp and Aprilia are breaking up, it seems. It seems like they're kind of having a falling out. What's really interesting about this is the journalists that are breaking this story are pretty well known for being mouthpieces for both Jorge Martin and Aprilia in their own ways. So looking at their previous reporting, the things that they've kind of talked about in the past, we can pretty much guarantee that the story is true, but we don't know exactly who is the one telling the story yet. So what they're saying is that Jorge Martin is reportedly looking to activate a performance clause in his contract that would allow him to leave Aprilia before 2026. So he would not ride for Aprilia in 2026. He could ride for someone else. What's really, really crazy about it from a legalese perspective, as someone who is very much not a lawyer, is that these performance clauses are very common. This is not an unheard of thing to include in a contract. What is unheard of is that reportedly he is trying to exercise this clause based on the fact that he has not been on an Aprilia at all. Therefore, he can activate his performance clause because it is not within whatever the subset the clause identifies.
Yeah, I was about to say, whose performance?
It's partly his. I think it's partly the team as a whole.
I just think it's very bold and interesting to say,
I'm out
based on a performance that isn't happening at all.
So you've kind of hit the nail on the head, which is, why is Jorge Martin doing this before he's ever even finished a race with that team and on that bike? Jorge Martin has a record of breaking news to journalists before it ever really solidifies. He did this with the Ducati seat last year. This is not an uncommon thing for him to do. He is also, no shame, but he is driven a lot by money as well as performance. He is also not quite as famously as Marco Bezzecchi, but he is a rider that, needs to feel confident. And as someone who has now been the victim of attempted manslaughter by his own bike, thrice now?
Is it manslaughter or bike slaughter?
I mean, Jorge's the man.
But is the bike slaughtering?
Is the man in manslaughter referring to the potential victim or the potential perpetrator?
That's a really good question that I don't know the answer to.
All right, we'll leave that to float out there. I'm sure someone knows the answer.
Get in the comments.
But basically, we can assume, and I say we, I mean me, I'm assuming Jorge has leaked this, at least in part to make it very clear to other manufacturers and other teams that he is ready and willing and a serious candidate for them to go after. Ooh. Especially, it seems, to Honda, who have had a very not-so weekend.
Not-so season.
Exactly. So, don't really know what's happening there. There's a very small chance, and I don't think this will happen, but there is a very small chance that whatever ends up happening, if Jorge actually tries to get out of his contract, it could go to court. I don't really know if Aprilia would take it that far, or if they would rather just, wash their hands of it. What I feel like I can reasonably, legitimately say about all of this is that Jorge Martin will not be racing for Aprilia next year. I feel like that is the takeaway. Because how do you as a team invest in a person after they've publicly said, fuck these people, I'm out?
Yeah, I think it's very silly to do so.
Right. Like, how do you as a rider decide, fuck it, like, I guess I'll stay?
Yeah, I think he showed his hand for the better or for worse.
He did. So there's a lot, like, this is still very new. We don't really know how this is going to go. Aprilia is staying very tight-lipped about it, which does really imply that they didn't leak this story. I feel like I just talked about all of that for like 10 minutes, but what's your read on the situation?
I can't read. So,
because you're Jared and you're 19.
What up? I'm Jared. I'm 19 and I never fucking learned how to read. Yeah, I think that, listen.
I'm listening.
I don't really rate Jorge Martin all that much.
Reigning world champion Jorge Martin?
I also haven't seen that much from Jorge Martin, it must be said.
Wait, I forget that you've never like actually seen him race competitively because he hasn't this season.
No, I haven't. So I don't know why we're asking my opinion on things. I don't fucking know.
Wait, but that is funny. Keep going.
Okay, so I don't really rate him because I've never seen him. So you need to see someone to rate them.
This is true.
I don't know.
This does make our 2 minutes talking about Jorge Martin at the top of the pod every episode actually really fucking funny.
It is really funny.
You don't know that guy.
I really don't know that man. He could be walking down the street and I wouldn't have a clue.
Sorry to that man.
Sorry to that man. I don't know him. But I do think it is bold to make statements about and point fingers about performance when you don't know how that, like, effectively, I think he's saying that even if I were on the team would be shit. And I don't think that's a smart thing to say if you are shopping yourself around to other teams.
And you make a great point because on some level, do we take this as an expression of like Jorge's buyer's remorse from kind of pulling the trigger too quickly after Ducati said no to him last year? Or do we take this as he's injured, he knows this year isn't really going to be something he could work with, and he is supremely unconfident in the Aprilia project and he's trying to get out? Or do we take it as someone who's, you know, thinking about his career from a place of like fear and like that emotion? So there's so many ways you kind of read into what his mindset is right now. But yeah, it's a developing story. Like, not to sound like a journalist, because I'm very much not one. Stolen valor. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes you should just move in silence, Jorge.
That's kind of my thing. Just move in silence. I think it's just a little too early to show your hand. Because, like, what if Aprilia starts to be really good and you're like, fuck, I already fucked it with them?
Well, that's the thing, because, like, Marco Bezzecchi had a bad year last year. So, like, is the bike bad, or is Marco Bezzecchi having another bad year?
Also, like, we're like 6 races into the season.
Of it, like, what, a 22 race season?
So much could still happen. I just think you're a little too early and a little too injured to be making all of these moves so vocally.
Should we talk about the people who actually raced at Le Mans this weekend?
Le Mans.
Exactly.
I want to preface this by saying I didn't watch shit of this weekend. I was at my sister's college graduation. Congratulations, Franny, on graduating from college. So I was thoroughly engaged in eating, drinking, and sitting outside in the blistering sun, getting sunburnt as a godforsaken AI tech startup guy started his commencement speech by saying, AI took all of your jobs, pivot, which is a really great way to start a commencement speech. So I'm really excited to hear what happened this weekend.
And this is an interesting weekend because I literally texted you today, don't be scared by the run of show document. I just needed all of the information in one place. It's robust.
Let me tell you what I think happened this weekend.
Okay.
Marc Marquez, sprint merchant, continues to only win sprints.
Correct.
However, I don't think he fucked it on Sunday.
Correct.
Just like last year, he was still in his P2 era.
Great callback.
Thank you. And last week we said everybody forgets about Johann Zarco, and then he won.
I forgot we said that.
And that's what I know about what happened in Le Mans.
And that's on forgetting Johann Zarco. Wow.
And he did a backflip. Like Benson Boone.
You can make the argument that Benson Boone does backflips like Johann Zarco.
That's probably more accurate.
because this does predate Benson Boone quite a bit. So you have some foundational context. Let's take a step back and let's talk about some of the early sessions. Le Mans, obviously, is in France. I don't know if you knew that, but
I did.
it is a French track. It's very exciting. So it was just a very cool race weekend to watch. What made all of that even crazier is that Fabio Quartararo, after last week, the race weekend before in Jerez, had another solid couple of days, which is a big fucking deal because he obviously is the French rider in MotoGP that has a world title. The timing of the laps that Marc is putting in is absolutely crazy. Coming out of the gate, I think in practice 1, and then he did it again, maybe in quali, or maybe he originally did it in free practice, but multiple times Marc came out on one of his very first hot laps and dunked about half a second on the rest of the grid. Insane behavior. Alex Marquez is putting in good times. Pecco is not, and Freeman Aldeguer also looks great, which is a really good sign for him, but it does seem like Marc is, again, on another level, according to all the other Ducatis. Fabio Quartararo is up there.
Fork found in kitchen.
No, literally. Just like nuts behavior. We get to quali. Marc puts down a hot lap that is somewhere between, a quarter of a second, a little bit more on top of everybody else. As I've said, nuts behavior. However, we exit quali with a Frenchman, Fabio Quartararo, as the pole sitter. And the entire venue goes nuts that I can hear it in my little apartment in the US. Very exciting.
In Chicago with the Pope.
Yeah. I guess we're all Italian now. We look back at the beginning of the season when we were talking about testing, and Fabio and the Yamahas looked really great, and we all got very excited. And that's not to say we shouldn't be excited now, but what's really wild to watch is the way that Fabio puts these laps together, especially in Jerez and in Le Mans this weekend. He is forcing the bike past its limits. He is making that lap happen, but it's not clicking in a way it needs to for race distance, which is, obviously a huge fucking bummer. So we ended with the sprint with Fabio, I think, down in 4th or 5th. And then for the sprint, we had a Marc and Alex P1, P2, which is like
fork found in kitchen
as usual. Exactly. The exciting part was Freeman Aldeguer had his first podium in MotoGP on his 6th weekend ever in the Premier class.
That's
so it was
crazy.
very exciting for him. He is like 20 years old. He's a little baby. Little baby. You kind of hit the nail on the head. Marc Marquez is a sprint merchant. He's a Saturday sprint specialist. He needs to be a Sunday GP specialist because he's got a pretty rough record for the moment.
Rough record, as if he hasn't won half the races this season.
He should have won them all, but that's neither here nor there. Sprint Saturday happened. It was in the sun.
I, too, was in the sun at my sister's graduation.
Burning, cooking, if you will.
Roasting.
Here's the thing. We know the entire weekend that Sunday will be in the rain. Everybody has known this the whole weekend. The funny thing is that Le Mans is right next to an airport. Like, the track is right next to a private airport. So it has really great weather data and like really up-to-date radars.
L'aéroport.
Okay, I just want to say, I'm not co-signing any of this French. This is not a 2-person effort.
L'aéroplane, l'aéroport, Le Mans.
This is like hurting my ears.
Okay, continue.
And I took Spanish in high school.
Can you guess what language I took?
Oh, it's so bad.
For 6 years, I took the France.
Look at me.
She took her headphones off.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Done. Wait, I'm done. I'm done. C'est fini.
I hate you so much. Okay, so Le Mans Sunday is in the wet. This is what we know. There's a whole sequence of events, so bear with me, please. This is complicated and weird. For the first warm-up lap, every single person on the grid is on dry tires. First warm-up lap happens. Everyone goes out on dry tires. It is actively raining. A lot of people almost crash, including pole sitter Fabio Quartararo, who, by the grace of fucking God himself, did not crash out on the first warm-up lap. They come back. Every single rider enters the pits for wet bikes. At this point, the race is red flagged, allowing these riders to all start from their grid position, and it's declared a wet race. When you declare a wet race before the race even starts, you can swap your wet, dry bikes whenever the hell you want throughout the race. Key point. So then they do the siding lap. There's about 10 to 15 minutes between that first lap and the siding lap. Rain has calmed down. At the end of a siding lap, you're supposed to pull back into your grid spots and then do another warm-up lap and then start the race from those spots. However, more than half the grid end the sighting lap by pulling into the pits to go back to a dry bike.
Got it.
So we now have 13 riders who are going to dry bikes with, I think, 6, 8, I don't know, I'm bad at math, that are starting wet.
The plot thickens.
Oh, and it's going to thicken more because these 13 riders have now come in when Parc Fermé is essentially closed. They will have to serve a double long lap penalty once the race is actually started, but they will be able to start the race from their original grid positions. This is a rule update after Marc Marquez's bullshit at COTA this year. So they are putting it into practice real soon. So then we start the second warm-up lap. This is when everyone who's come in, who's gotten on the dry bike, they're starting from the pit lane. It's a really fucking funny photo of all of them just like backed up behind the red light in the pit lane. Second warm-up lap is happening. Dry bikes are starting from the pit. Wet bikes are starting from the grid. Warm-up lap happens. Everyone comes back, starts the race from their original grid spots. Again, it is now raining once again. End of lap 1. Some riders come back in to switch dry bikes, leaving only 4 wet bikes on the track, including, famously, Johann Zarco. So there are only 4 sets of wet tires on the grid. Everyone else is on dry slicks. It is rain. Around lap 3 and 5, this is when riders start getting notified of their long lap penalties. They cannot take those penalties until they get officially notified of them, and they start taking those long lap penalties. Rain starts falling heavier, by the way. This is when we see, unfortunately, the end of the road for Fabio Quartararo, who crashes out from the front of the pack. We are now at lap 9.
Oh my God, it's only lap 9? Jesus.
Yes. The race itself was like 20 minutes longer than it should have been because everybody was going so slow. So by lap 9, all riders who were previously on dry bikes enter the pits for wet bikes. What this means is that some people have started the race on wet bikes. Some people have started the race on dry bikes. Multiple people have pitted twice. It is a 2-stopper race, which is
in a sport that does no stops.
That does not stop. Some people have pitted twice. So by lap 9, rain's heavier, everyone's on wet bikes, all long lap penalties have been served. Johann Zarco is now leading the race with 7 seconds over Miguel Oliveira.
Who?
And Marquez is in P3. That's lap 9. And then throughout the rest of the race, we get a little bit more business as usual. But it was crazy. So Marc is settling for a P2. Johann Zarco is in P1. The sound through the TV that the entire venue made when they finally realized about 2 laps later that Johann Zarco was leading the race, absolutely insane. I've never heard anything like it. Johann Zarco at a certain point has 2 seconds on Marc Marquez. Then you turn around, he's got 3.5 seconds on Marc Marquez. Then you turn around, he's got 5 seconds on Marc Marquez.
This is crazy.
He's got 7 seconds on Marc Marquez. Turn around, he's got 10 seconds. Absolutely bonkers. The LCR Honda team principal is hanging through the fences, like gesturing at his pit board. Marc Marquez is 15 seconds behind you. Slow down. Relax.
Oh my God.
Because this race is so long.
They go for 24 hours.
It felt like 24 hours, I swear to fucking God. And Johann Zarco was talking at the end of the race. He was like, listen, I had to keep that pace going because the second I roll off of those, he was like, I'm fucked. Which is so funny because then you're like, wow, sprint merchant Marc Marquez embarrassed by Johann Zarco who dunked 15 seconds on him. What a headline.
In that sexy, sexy, sexy LCR Honda livery.
And you know, like it needed a moment to shine. It was lovely.
I'm so glad it did.
It was very, very touching to see everything that happened. Johann Zarco's mom was visiting to like watch, and it's the first MotoGP race she's watched her son race in like a decade, like a crazy amount of time. And Mother's Day was also that weekend. Like it was crazy to watch his parents.
His dad had lost a tooth?
Yeah, his dad had lost a tooth a couple days before and was like, oh, I guess I just like, I'll have to like not smile a ton this weekend.
And then he was grinning so hard the whole time.
Yeah. The French crowd was absolutely insane. Then hearing the French crowd sing the French national anthem at Le Mans for a French race winner.
The narrative.
It was narrativing.
You know who else was there?
Who?
My beautiful baby boy, Capybara, Isaac Hadjar.
He was there. He was.
To celebrate his homie, Fabio Quartararo, and to be a little Frenchy, little French boy.
Little French man. I hope he had a good time. even despite the horrors.
Yeah, that sounds like an exciting weekend that I should watch.
One other thing I wanted to talk about, which is the Pecco Bagnaia of it all. I think it's just kind of sad because we're watching him in real time be like, yep, I'm not anywhere near it this year. I guess he'll just hang out. And let me just be really clear. Pecco didn't get any points this weekend. He crashed out of the sprint, and Enea Bastianini crashed him out of the GP.
This is an email addressed to Pecco Bagnaia, and I'm CCing Jorge Martin.
Hit me.
If you're gonna give up, do it in silence for a little bit.
Move in silence.
Move in silence. That's all I gotta say. We don't need to know that you fucked it and you're giving up for the season. It's not a becoming look.
And I think Pecco doesn't think about it like that. I think he truly is like, at least I'm honest.
Okay. He annoys me so much. I'm going to be so for real.
I kind of get it. Like, I'm fascinated by his flop nature, but I get what you mean.
He's so annoying. He's so Lando Norris coded.
I get what you mean, but you can't say that to me. You cannot say that to me.
I just hate crimed Zoe.
Wow.
I hate speeched Zoe.
Never say that to me again. Here's the thing. I do think Pecco, has wheel game. He knows what he's doing. I think he just, is a bit of a flop.
Many such cases. And that's why I believe that I won Fail King this weekend.
You kind of nailed it with Fail King.
So this is what my predictions were. I said Pecco Bagnaia, Fail King, which I totally nailed. P3, Fabio Quartararo. P2, Alex Marquez. P1, Marc Marquez. So I did get a Marquez in P2.
Yeah, honestly, for the sprint, you were very, very close.
And then you said Fail King, Pedro Acosta. P3, Maverick Vinales. P2, Pecco Bagnaia. P1, Marc Marquez.
While I was wrong, I think I was inspired.
Sure.
We did always forget about Johann Zarco.
We literally forgot about Johann Zarco. And then, you know what? He proved us wrong.
We don't have any racing this weekend for MotoGP, so we'll come back weekend after or Silverstone.
We'll go to England, mate.
Off to England.
Shall we head to the Great Wide World of Motorsport?
We should.
So, stuff's happened.
Yeah.
They crucified Jack Doohan.
They did. They
rotated him like a rotisserie chicken. You wrote, it's Jack Do-Over, which it's not because he's not getting a do-over. It's just Jack Over.
No, it's more pronounced like it's Jack Dover.
Oh, okay. It's Jack Dover. It's Jack off.
Stop.
Yeah, so a whole lot's happened in Enstone.
The fall of the House of Renault is happening.
And it's been happening, but now it's really happening. It's reaching
critical mass.
Critical mass, exactly. I don't even know where to start. Oliver Oakes resigns as team principal. Initially, I think this is because he's seeing what's going to happen with Jack and he's saying, no, I won't stand for this. Could be true, except it's more likely true that he's doing criminal activities with his brother who was just arrested on felony charges.
And reports indicate that Oliver Oakes fled to Dubai.
And fled the country. So I don't think Jack had anything to do with it.
Honestly, we needed that because I feel like we haven't really had crime in F1 for a while.
Well, guess who's back to bring it back, baby? Number one criminal himself, Flavio Briatore, who I can't emphasize enough, got a lifetime ban from the sport in 2008 for Crashgate. It was overturned, but I still think that, maybe there should be a little ban on becoming team principal.
Even if the lifetime ban from the sport couldn't hold up, he should get a lifetime ban from essentially holding office.
Yeah, running a team, whatever.
Yeah.
Nope.
Jokes.
And now he's the team principal of Renault again.
It's really giving somehow Palpatine returned.
100%. Do I think Jack Doohan being taken out back and shot is fair?
Absolutely not.
Do I think that it's the worst thing to ever happen? No.
Listen, as a girl who just got laid off and then has figured her shit out, I promise you, Jack, the best is yet to come. I don't know what it is. Truly. And it might not be F1, but get your ass out of that fucking team and run.
You and I have always said that the only way to break the second seat Red Bull curse, and by always said, I mean, I said it once while we were drunk and you agreed with me, is to have an Aussie, a Flop King Aussie in the second seat. We think that Jack Doohan should be in the second Red Bull seat.
Is he gonna like do something special? Probably not, but let him break the curse at the very least.
Let him break the curse by getting a cute, charismatic Aussie back in that seat.
God forbid, like, pretty girls win.
But, however, for two people who love mess.
I don't love this mess.
What about the mess of Mick Doohan posting on his Instagram story to be petty?
Yeah, I love that mess. I'll say that. I love that mess.
That was good mess. That was really, really good mess.
Mick Doohan, I didn't realize you had game in that way.
A running theme of this podcast is like, let's give it up for dads. He had a mural commissioned in his home of him and Jack racing together.
Let's give it up for dads.
Now he's not racing and he's like back as the Alpine reserve. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. And it sucks because like I don't hate Franco Colapinto.
No,
I think he's a
really
good dude.
like him.
I think he deserves a seat. Well, I don't believe that anyone deserves anything in this sport except for Daniel Ricciardo, as I've said. But I think that he has earned a seat on the grid for the time being. I just also think that Jack Doohan has earned a seat on the grid for the time being. And the fact that it has to be one or the other when there are people on the grid that should not be there. And I'm not talking about, the Lance Stroll of it all, because I do think that Lance, for better or for worse, is there and should be there, if only that his dad bought the team. So literally, he is there. But like, why does Jack Doohan's seat have to come at the cost of
who is doing fuck all with his career?
Right. Or, Nico Hülkenberg, who has been racing for God knows how many years and has never even come close to a podium. Or Fernando Alonso, who's
ancient.
It's a very complicated conversation when we start talking about like young talent and what is the role of allowing young talent into F1. Where's the balance? I think that a lot of newer fans put a lot of emphasis on young talent getting a chance when that's not really the history of Formula One. And it's just interesting.
I think about it from like a Western perspective in the sense of like you look at hockey, you look at football, like you look at baseball, like those sports live and die on an influx of like young talent coming in and making a splash. Yeah. And those teams live and die on that. Like the whole draft system exists because like teams constantly need like new blood and new talent. F1 very much is not like that. There's a reason we talk about motorsport and we talk about the premier class. Like when you get to the premier class, you need to be as prepared as you have ever been for anything in your life. And I think F1 is not a place, like my personal philosophy on it is that F1, MotoGP, these premier classes are not for people to cut their teeth on. This is not the place or the time for you to be figuring out where your talent is or figuring out that this isn't for you. And I think that's a very different philosophy that I think a lot of newer and like not to be ageist, but like younger fans to your point bring, where it's like, no, you don't get new characters every season. That's not how sport works. And it's very much not how motorsport works. It is incredibly rare that you get a like new rookie class. But I do also believe, and I don't know what the solution is, but I do believe you can't give rookies under 6 races to prove their worth. That's not how that works either. How do you get like a Charles Leclerc who kind of like his first season in that Sauber was like nothing,
Yeah. Not to play devil's advocate. I think Formula One has diverged there's 2 camps. And there's this prevailing belief, like you said, that you need to be ready to go when you're there and there should not be time to kind of cut your teeth.
No, I mean in the sense of like you need to be as prepared as you have ever been. You need to be at the top of your game. That doesn't mean that like you need to be like winning races in your first season. Just to clarify my point, I don't think people should come into F1 without like a couple of years in F2. Like that quick succession kind of thing doesn't need to be happening.
Yeah, I mean, unless you win.
Unless you're Max Verstappen. But that's the thing. I don't think, like personally, I don't believe that you can win F3, then go to F2, win F2 that year, and then be like, I'm ready for Formula One. That's not how that works.
But I disagree because I think it's happened now multiple times. It's Oscar Piastri did that. Kimi barely raced in F2, and so did Max. Max didn't even race in F2. So it's happened multiple times now. So I don't know if you can make that argument anymore.
I guess you're right.
Here's my thing. There is an ageism in all sport that is happening.
This is true.
Where it is getting younger and younger and younger and younger. And at the same time, as these sports are getting younger and younger and younger, there's this prevailing myth that they should be prepared and be at the top of the game. And this is 1 of 20 seats and you should be the best of the best. That you shouldn't have, if you can't make it in 6 races, then you're out.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. You can't have it both ways.
You can't have it both ways.
F1 in particular. Everyone has backed each other into a corner where they go younger and younger because they're trying to snap up talent before their competitors do. But then it also turns into a situation where you have people coming into these teams. You have young athletes coming into these teams who, to your point, aren't perfect. And we can't expect them to be. Like, Kimi Antonelli is having a great start to the season, but he is a child who has spent incredibly little time
on
focusing his talent. Also that. And so he's a very raw talent and he's doing exactly what he needs to do. But like, that is not how everyone is.
It's not normal. He is the exception to the rule.
I think there should be, to your point, this larger conversation about, do we as a sport, and this will never happen, by the way, do we as a sport need to take a step back? Because financially, it is better for us to develop talent and then bring kids up as they have that talent. So we're not fucking crashing cars all the time.
Maybe this is a solution. Make the cars smaller, have each
That
team
too.
have 3 cars, and have one of those seats be reserved for kind of a young gun.
I could see that. Or make it be a concessions thing.
Or take away the requirement that if you win F2, you're out.
Yeah, like the bottom of the pack gets an extra car.
Sure. I think there are things to consider here. I don't think it'll happen because I think that this prevailing elitism is going to prevail. I do also wonder if the reason why this hasn't been an issue sooner is because the sport has gotten so much safer. And
I wonder about that too.
And people aren't really dying and seats aren't opening up. Like, people used to die every weekend. And so there's never an issue with, well, where do we put the new talent? Obviously, the current case is for the better.
Yes.
But I do wonder if that's, I mean, I think it
Part of
has
it.
to have had an effect.
Just interesting.
Interesting.
All right. Like, side conversation discussion over.
I am excited to see Franco Colapinto back on the grid.
I think it'll be nice to have him back on the grid. I'm super, super, super bummed about Jack. I'm wearing
Doing
my
okay
Doing
shirt.
Okay merch.
You're not doing okay.
I'm not.
Shall we, all that being said, make our predictions for
Emilia Romagna. I'm going to go with a Franco Colapinto P1, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm. No.
Can I go first?
Yes, please.
I've said this a couple weeks now, but I am genuinely going to go with a Yuki Tsunoda P3. This is his home race. The Nonas
They love him.
They love him. They call him Yukino. He stayed and cleaned up when they had all the flooding.
Yeah.
He's a little Italiano, and I'm going to say that the power of his home race is going to propel him to his first Red Bull podium. P2, I'm going all out, baby.
Hit
P2,
me.
Kimi Antonelli.
Ooh, his whole class is coming with his teacher.
His principal is coming.
I think he's also supposed to be bringing lasagna. Like,
Because he can't go on his senior trips or like whatever. They're coming. That's very sweet.
it's horrifying, the child labor laws that are being broken, but it's fine.
But it's very sweet. I'm going to say Kimi P2 and P1, I'm going to go with Max Verstappen.
Love that.
Fail King, I'm going to go with... I think the Arvin Lindblad rumors are starting to swirl, and this is just going to be another nail in the coffin.
Ugh, that would be so good. Love that. Love that. Love that. I think for me, I will also be going with a Max Verstappen P1. It feels good. It feels right. It's all I want. Like, funnily enough, I'm going with the podium from last year, which is a Max Verstappen P1, Lando Norris P2, and a Charles Leclerc P3. Do I feel
Okay.
confident about it? No, but that's where I'm at. I think for Fail King of the week, unfortunately, I'm going to go with Franco Colapinto. Or fortunately, we'll see how it goes.
Reverse curse. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about in the great wide world of motorsport is that Carlos Sainz Sr.
This is very exciting.
Has made some waves regarding potentially running against MBS for FIA president.
Which would be hot.
I've seen a lot of people like, conflict of interest. I think this is a really, really good idea. Actually, I think that Carlos Sainz Sr. would be an excellent FIA president, if only for the fact that he, unlike MBS, knows that the FIA represents more motorsport than just Formula One. He's a rally driver. He's a rally world champion. Now we're hearing that MBS is trying to make it so no one can run against him.
He's been trying to do that for years.
And he's making, things are non-electable and they're going to be appointment only. It's I don't think it could get worse. I think it could get a lot better. And also he's daddy AF.
Listen, do I think it could get worse? Yeah, it could always get worse. Do I think it would get worse with Carlos Sainz Sr.? Absolutely not.
This is a wild, wild thought. Mick Doohan, president of the FIM.
Yes.
Carlos Sainz Sr., president of the FIA.
Yeah.
Happiness and world peace.
Yeah, except Mick, really could not give less of a fuck.
And Fred Vasseur for the next pope.
Wow, you want Chicago Pope to die already?
No, I think that he will retire and be Pope Emeritus, like the last
Do
Benedict.
they retire?
Benedict did.
Damn.
The one before Francis. He retired. He was the second to ever do it.
Yeah, give it up for the dads.
Shall we go to the grid as ...
Please.
For those that initiated, the grid as ... is a point in our podcast where we select a handful of riders and drivers from across the great wide world of motorsport and categorize them as a person, place, thing, idea, concept. So we're going to do Italian food. You want to go first?
Yes, I would love to go first. I will be talking about Frankie Morbidelli and Pecco Bagnaia. Frankie Morbidelli, these were so quick for me. And I say this as an Italian American, truly respect my people. Frankie Morbidelli is lasagna. I bet he gives a great hug. That's all I've got.
Okay.
Pecco Bagnaia.
Hang on. How are the two related?
What are you talking about?
How is getting a hug and lasagna related?
Have you ever had lasagna?
I mean, yeah.
It's like a hug of a dish.
Okay, sure.
Can't believe I had to explain that. Pecco Bagnaia is a meat and cheese board. He's a charcuterie board. I know this is not typically,
He's antipasta. He's antipasta.
He's antipasta. He is made up solely of Italian meats and cheeses, and it is arranged like the fucking Navy. It is arranged to geometric precision. Because that's him.
Yeah. I literally can't disagree. I cannot disagree.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to go with Yuki Tsunoda and Kimi Antonelli.
Amazing.
Yuki Tsunoda is an American Italian dish that I had for the first time this weekend. He is toasted ravioli.
Okay.
I just think he'd be into it.
I think he would be.
And dip him in a little marinara.
Yep.
Delish. Kimi Antonelli to me, shrimp scampi.
Explain.
Shrimpy, teeny tiny, a
Uh-huh.
little scamp. And it's light, it's refreshing. It's not heavy, it's not a heavy sauce. It's a light, refreshing sauce. It's fun, it's youthful, it's summery. It just gives Kimmy vibes.
You realize that shrimp scampi is also Italian American?
No, it's not.
The shrimp part is.
I was just on the Wikipedia page and Sardinia is known for their scampi.
Yeah, the shrimp part is the American part.
What do they put in their scampi?
I don't know, just seafood.
Hang on.
Scampi is actually a small lobster.
Okay, well, he's scampi.
A small lobster?
Yeah.
Shrimp doesn't really exist in Europe, dude.
What does this mean? Okay, well, whatever. I'm not Italian. Those are my picks. They're Italian-American, so whatever.
We're Americans. What do you want us to say?
What do you want me to say? At least I didn't call him fettuccine Alfredo.
At least there's that.
You know who Lando Norris is?
I think I can guess.
Fettuccine Alfredo.
Yeah.
And he asks for it with no green stuff.
Oh, that's such a cold read.
Damning. That's damning what I just said.
And on that note,
that brings us to the end of the podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode when we shit on Lando Norris more, make our predictions for Silverstone, recap the events of Emilia-Romagna, and what else? Oh God, we're heading into a triple header. Ugh. God. Make our predictions for where the fuck did they go after Imola?
Monaco.
So Monaco, then Spain. We'll also probably talk about the Indy 500. If it's Monaco, then it's Indy.
It's always Monaco if it's Indy.
That's it for us. Come hang out with us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. We are having a lot of fun. Anything to add, Zoe?
No, apparently.
On that note, let's keep chatting soon.
Bye.
Bye.